Rolling 60 Crips. One of the oldest and most recognized Crip sets in Los Angeles, the Rolling 60 Crips trace their origins back to the early 1970s in the West Adams district of South Central. Prospective members, often called wannabes or hood rats before they earn standing, are expected to prove loyalty through a process known as being jumped in, where they endure a timed physical beating from multiple established members. The duration is typically 60 seconds, a nod to the set's name. Surviving the beating without backing down is considered a sign of heart, meaning courage and resolve. The process is as much psychological as physical, designed to test whether the recruit will hold their ground when facing serious adversity. Grape Street Watts Crips. Based in the Nickerson Gardens housing project in Watts, California, Grape Street is one of the most dominant Crips-affiliated sets in Southern California and carries a deeply territorial identity. Their jump-in process follows a format similar to other Crip sets, but the environment of Nickerson Gardens adds a layer of intensity because prospects are often already embedded in the community before they formally join. Many members grew up together, meaning the initiation is less about meeting strangers and more about crossing a formal threshold within a group you already know. The purple color associated with Grape Street is worn with serious pride, and showing weakness during initiation is considered a permanent mark on your reputation within the set. Rollin 20s Crips. Operating primarily in the West Adams and Crenshaw areas of Los Angeles, the Rollin 20s Crips have a long history dating back to the late 1960s and early 1970s, making them one of the earliest recognized Crip sets. Their initiation is jump-in based, but the set places a strong cultural emphasis on neighborhood loyalty above almost everything else. A prospect is often expected to demonstrate that they already live within or near the set's territory before being considered. The act of jumping in is seen as a formal acknowledgement that you are now bound to defend that territory with your body and your presence. For many young men in the area, the initiation feels less like a gang ritual and more like a neighborhood rite of passage. East Side Crips. The East Side Crips represent one of the broader umbrella identifiers used by Crips-affiliated sets operating on the east side of various California cities, including Long Beach and parts of Los Angeles. Because the name applies to multiple sets rather than one singular organization, initiation practices can vary considerably from block to block and city to city. However, the common thread is the jump-in, combined with a strong expectation that the new member will be immediately ready to represent and defend their specific block. Some East Side sets also require a new member to perform a put-in-work task, which may involve acts of theft, vandalism, or confrontation, designed to show gang loyalty through action rather than just endurance. This requirement separates passive members from those expected to take active roles. 8-Tray Gangster Crips. The 8-Tray Gangster Crips are one of the most well-known and historically significant Crip sets in Los Angeles, originating in the Vermont Knolls area near 83rd Street. Their name is derived from the street, with Tray being slang for 3, making 83 into 8-Tray. The set gained particular notoriety in the 1980s and 90s due to their violent conflict with the Rollin 60 Crips, which represents one of the most intense intra-Crips rivalries ever documented. Initiations within 8-Tray typically involve a jump-in, but the set also places high value on proving yourself in real confrontations after you join. A member who gets jumped in but never demonstrates toughness in actual street situations is often viewed with suspicion or disrespect. Compton Crips. The Compton Crips is a broad designation covering several sets operating in and around Compton, California, a city that became globally synonymous with gang culture, largely due to the influence of West Coast hip-hop in the 1980s and 90s. Individual sets under the Compton Crips banner, such as the Nutty Block Compton Crips and the Compton Vario Crips, each have their own localized initiation customs. The jump-in is standard, but in Compton, geographic proximity to rival Bloods sets means that new members are often put into dangerous real-world situations almost immediately after joining. Some former members have described initiation as just the beginning of a much longer and more grueling process of proving yourself through repeated exposure to violence. The pressure to perform does not end when the beating stops. Fruittown Brims. The Fruittown Brims are a Bloods-affiliated set based in Compton, California, and are one of the more historically rooted Blood sets in the area. Like many Blood sets, their initiation centers on a blood-in process, which can mean either being jumped in by current members or, in more extreme circumstances associated with certain eras and factions, being required to commit an act of violence against a rival. The jump-in version involves absorbing punches and strikes from several members for a set period, typically between 30 and 60 seconds. What distinguishes the Fruittown Brims culturally is their strong emphasis on loyalty after initiation, with members expected to respond immediately and physically whenever another set member is threatened. The initiation is framed as an agreement, not just an event. Piru Street Boys. The Piru Street Boys hold a unique and foundational place in gang history because they are widely considered one of the original groups that broke away from Crips affiliation and helped establish what would become the Bloods Alliance in the early 1970s. Centered on Piru Street in Compton, the set formed in response to increasing Crips aggression toward non-affiliated groups. Their initiation process has historically included a jump-in, but the set also places significant symbolic weight on the color red and the rejection of anything associated with Crips identity. New members are often tested on their knowledge of set history and their willingness to openly challenge Crips in their immediate environment. For the Piru Street Boys, initiation is inseparable from ideological allegiance. Bounty Hunter Bloods. Based in the Nickerson Gardens housing project in Watts, the Bounty Hunter Bloods are one of the largest and most feared blood sets in Los Angeles County, and their reputation for internal discipline is well known among both law enforcement and rival sets. The initiation process within Bounty Hunter is reported to be particularly intense, with new recruits facing extended jump-ins and being held to a strict code of conduct from the moment they join. Members are expected to know their set's history, respect the hierarchy of OGs, original gangsters, and demonstrate that they are willing to stand their ground in any situation. The housing project setting means that members often grow up together before any formal initiation occurs, giving the process a deeply communal character. Being Bounty Hunter is considered an identity that goes far beyond street affiliation. Inglewood Family Bloods. The Inglewood Family Bloods, sometimes called the Inglewood Family Gangster Bloods, operate primarily in Inglewood, California, and are one of the more structured blood sets in the Los Angeles area. Their initiation is jump-in based, but the set is known for placing a high value on family-like bonds between members, a quality reflected directly in their name. Prospects are often observed informally for extended periods before being officially invited to join, with OGs watching to see whether the individual has the temperament and loyalty the set demands. The jump-in, when it happens, is followed by a period of mentorship from older members who are expected to guide new recruits in how to conduct themselves. This mentorship aspect makes Inglewood Family somewhat distinct from sets that initiate and then largely leave recruits to figure things out alone. Rollin 30s, Harlem Crips. The Rollin 30s Harlem Crips, also known simply as Harlem Crips, are based around the West 30th Street area of Los Angeles and represent one of the longer established Crips sets in the city. Their jump-in process adheres to the broader Crips tradition, but the set places particular emphasis on neighborhood respect and seniority. Younger members are expected to defer to OGs in all matters and are given a probationary period after initiation, during which their behavior is closely watched. If a new member acts recklessly, disrespects hierarchy, or brings unwanted attention to the set, they may face additional internal discipline. The Harlem Crips have historically been known for internal organization that goes beyond what many outsiders associate with street gangs, and initiation is just the first stage of a longer process of integration. 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips. The 5 Deuce Hoover Gangster Crips, based around 52nd Street and Hoover Street in Los Angeles, are one of the prominent members of the Hoover Criminals, a faction that notably broke from Crips alliance and adopted its own identity. Their initiation historically followed the jump-in model, but the transition away from full Crips identification brought a shift in how new members are ideologically oriented. Recruits are introduced to the concept that Hoover identity supersedes broader gang alliance, making loyalty to the specific set the highest priority. The physical initiation is considered the easy part by many former members, with the harder test being whether a new recruit truly understands and commits to the Hoover identity over any outside affiliation. This internal cultural complexity makes 5 Deuce Hoover initiations particularly layered. Treetop Piru. The Treetop Piru is a Bloods-affiliated set, based in Compton, that has historical ties to the original Piru Street network from which the Bloods Alliance emerged. Their name references the Spruce Street area where early members congregated, and the set maintains a strong identity rooted in Compton's gang history. Initiation follows the familiar jump-in format, but Treetop Piru is known for conducting initiations in front of a large group of set members, turning the event into a kind of public declaration. The visibility of the process matters because it means everyone present is a witness to your commitment and to the set's acceptance of you. Former members have described the experience as both terrifying and oddly validating, a moment where you cross a line that everyone around you recognizes. Avenue Crips. The Avenue Crips operate across several cities in Southern California and take their name from the numbered avenue streets that define their territory. Individual sets often identify by their specific avenue, such as the 118 Avenue Crips in Watts, creating a network of related but distinct groups under a shared naming convention. Initiation across Avenue Crips sets is almost universally jump-in based, and the process is deeply tied to block-level identity. A recruit from 118 Avenue, for example, is initiated specifically into that block's group and is expected to claim that exact territory above all others. This hyperlocal focus means that the initiation is not just about joining a broader gang, but about formally pledging yourself to a specific few city blocks. The geographic specificity shapes everything about how initiation is understood and performed. Bloodstone Villains. The Bloodstone Villains, also known as the BSV, are a Bloods-affiliated set operating in the Watts and South Los Angeles areas with a history stretching back to the 1970s. Their initiation process includes a jump-in, but is also notable for the cultural weight placed on set knowledge. Prospects are expected to know their set's history, understand the hierarchy, and be familiar with the ongoing conflicts with rival sets before being formally admitted. This knowledge requirement reflects a broader philosophy within the set that membership is not just about toughness, but about investment in the community and identity of the group. An individual who knows the history is seen as genuinely committed, rather than simply looking for protection or status. Rollin Forties Crips. The Rollin Forties Crips, based around the 40th Street corridor in South Los Angeles, are one of the older Crip sets in the city and have a strong presence in the area surrounding Exposition Park. Their initiation is jump-in based and follows the standard Crips model. But the set is known for a relatively strict internal code that governs how members are supposed to behave on the street and within the community. New members are not considered fully integrated until they have demonstrated their willingness to represent in real situations, not just survive the jump-in. OGs within the set maintain significant authority over how initiations are conducted and who is considered ready to join, meaning that the process is not entirely self-directed by whoever wants in. Community elders within the set essentially function as gatekeepers. Swan Bloods. The Swan Bloods, sometimes referred to as the Swans or the Swan Street Bloods, are a Bloods-affiliated set based in South Los Angeles with roots going back to the 1970s and 80s. Their initiation follows the jump-in model, but the Swan Bloods are known for placing particular emphasis on post-initiation behavior as a measure of true membership. Joining the set through a jump-in is considered only the beginning, and new members are watched carefully in the weeks and months that follow to see how they carry themselves. A member who flinches in street confrontations or fails to represent the set with consistency may find themselves sidelined or pressured to prove themselves again. The Swan Bloods' reputation rests on this culture of ongoing accountability, rather than a single moment of initiation. East Coast Crips. The East Coast Crips are one of the most widely dispersed Crips-affiliated sets in the United States, with a significant original presence in South Los Angeles before spreading to other cities and even other states through migration and incarceration networks during the 1980s and 90s. Their initiation practices vary somewhat by location, but the jump-in remains the most common form, often lasting between 30 and 90 seconds, depending on the specific faction and its local customs. What makes East Coast Crips initiations particularly significant from a sociological standpoint is how the process adapted as the set spread geographically. In cities far from Los Angeles, initiations sometimes incorporate regional elements, while still maintaining the core jump-in structure as a point of cultural continuity. The initiation becomes a link back to the set's California origins, no matter where it is performed.